Welcome to the Queer Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Venegoni. Here we have conversations with artists, healers, and activists who enliven the LGBTQ communities and who empower our queer spirits to flourish. My guest today is Larry Armstead. Larry is an expectation coach and inspirational speaker who is taking the world by storm. Seeing the need for a step over the law of attraction, Larry heard these words during his nightly meditation that forever transformed his life. In life, we don't get what we want, we get what we expect. This inspired him to chase this wisdom like a madman. During our conversation, we talk about Larry's new book, Where's My Pizza?, in which he teaches his unique practice of manifestation called Exp-anticipation, a combination of expectation and anticipation. Larry talks about how he uses this work to support his queer clients to find freedom and love. He also shares the story of how he first tuned into his psychic and intuitive abilities as a teen, and how the death of his brother ultimately inspired his life path. Find Larry and his book at larry-armstead.com. Hi, Larry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So, Larry, one of the things that you do as a coach is you help people focus on expectation and anticipation and manifestation. And I believe that one of your influences with that is the law of attraction. So I thought we would start just by getting to the basics of it and help us understand what the law of attraction is.
Great. Oh, so for me, I'd reframe kind of a law of attraction. For me, the law of attraction is, the idea that what you're seeking is seeking you. And then I take that one step further in my book and I say, we're looking at the power of exp-anticipation or expectation. And what that is just that whatever you're seeking is already right here, right now for you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So can you differentiate for us between expectation and anticipation and how you merge those together?
Well, I've come up with the term, as you just heard, called exp-anticipation. And that's kind of that awesome cross-section where expectation meets anticipation. So expectation is just knowing beyond the shadow of a doubt that something for you that you're looking to manifest is on its way. Anticipation is now that you expect it, you know that it's on its way, you're looking for it, you're waiting for it. And then when you get to that exp-anticipation standpoint, that is, nobody can talk you out of it, nobody can persuade you differently. It doesn't have a choice but to appear in your life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One of the things I notice in reading about this new word that you've come up with, which I really like, is what I see in that word is the idea of expanding or expansion, which I also
I love that.
Of being able to either expand your mind or expand your view or expand your horizon, or maybe even talking with people about expanding their heart and sort of opening up to receive. I'm wondering if that has ever crossed your mind.
That has never crossed my mind, but you know what? It is completely in line with the message that I bring to people. So many times we are very closed off and we're so afraid to let people in and to be vulnerable. And I mean, that's even a lesson that I'm learning right now, vulnerability and, expanding my worldview, expanding my heart, expanding my mind and letting people in. So no, that has never crossed my mind, but I really love that. I really do. I'm still in that.
Okay, great. No charge. So I'm curious, when you work with people on their expectations, if you ever have the experience that expectations might be part of the problem and the solution in a way. And the reason I ask is because in my work with my clients, I work a lot with the ideas from Buddhist psychology. And one of the concepts in Buddhism is that one of the forms of suffering is attachment, so really grasping or wanting something that you can't have. And so I often think of expectation as a form of grasping, but I can also see how if you're able to shift the way you're holding an expectation with anticipation could shift that. But I'm curious if you ever notice in your work with people that expectation might be part of the challenge as well as the solution in some way.
Yeah, definitely. What I tell people is that expectation and anticipation, they have negative and positive attributes. And I know, I'm also a student now, just started reading the Tao Te Ching, which I'm absolutely in love with. But, there is no good or bad, no right or wrong. Everything just is. So I even teach that with Exp-anticipation. I'm going to keep merging the word together because I just love saying it. But even with Exp-anticipation, even when people are holding those expectations and those anticipations, they have a negative and a positive connotation. So if you're expecting good things to happen, that's what you're going to attract to you. Similarly, if you're expecting those bad things to happen, kind of what you're hinting at, I think, you're going to attract those things to yourself. And a lot of it is our subconscious self-speak. You have to really listen to what you're saying internally to make sure that your internal dialogue matches what's coming out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm. And you have a new book out where you walk through all this called Where's My Pizza?
Yes.
How did you come up with that name?
Well, I was actually doing some coaching and I was talking to one of my clients. She's mentioned in the book. Her name is Aurora. And she was just saying, Larry, I'm sick of wanting things and they're not happening. I was like, well, what's going on? She was like, well, my husband's working. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I really need a car. And I said, okay, well, Aurora, what do you give me more? And she was like, well, I don't know more. I was like, so what you're essentially doing is saying, calling a pizza joint and saying, hey, I want a pizza. Well, what do you want the pizza? I don't know. How are you going to pay for the pizza? I don't know. Well,
what do you want on the pizza?
I don't know. And then you just hang up and then, 45 minutes later, you're looking out the window expecting a pizza to arrive and it never shows up. And I took that as a metaphor for life. Our lives can be made up of whatever we want. We can put whatever we want on them. There's so many different ways to experience pizza and to experience life. So in the back of the book, I actually include a bunch of pizza recipes just to kind of demonstrate that you can make the pizza and, read along with, but it's also a huge metaphor for how life is. You can stack on that pizza whatever you want. You can change the dough. You can change the sauce. You can change your toppings. Everything is up for you. So that's how I came up with the title of that book.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the one thing I hear in that also is that it's important to be clear and specific about what it is that you want. And I know from my practice in magic and witchcraft, that's one of the things that we focus on is being clear and concise about what it is that you want and what it is that you need. And also tuning into well, what's it going to be when I get that, and really making sure that's what you want. So I can see how someone saying, oh, I want a pizza. And what do you want? I don't know. How big do you want it to be? I don't know. You have to be really clear. So
absolutely. And there's even a chapter in the book that I wrote. There's a chapter, I think it's chapter 6 or 7, that's called Get Clear. So, it's about obtaining clarity, because the more clear that you are, and I know you've probably seen this, like you said, in magic and witchcraft, that the more clear you are, the better you are aligned with what you actually are wanting and what you're saying. Because a lot of times we say we want things, but we don't quite think them all the way through. So when they show up, they don't show up like we wanted them to, or in the way that we thought they would. So we're disappointed when they arrive. The problem is that you weren't clear on your message when you first sent it out.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering how you deal with disappointment around this. If people have a specific expectation or anticipation for something and they get it, but it's maybe not the way they want it to be, and they get disappointed, what happens then?
Well, I mean, scientifically, there's a chemical change that happens in your brain with the dopamine. When you get disappointed, you're scared to hope again. You're scared to wish again. You're scared to expect again, right? So when people get disappointed, what I always tell them when they come to me is, okay, let's go back and let's look at what you actually said, because chances are, and I've seen this pretty much in every client that I've worked with, chances are that you've gotten exactly what you said and what you wanted. The problem is your clarity wasn't there. You didn't think your clarity through. So in the example of Aurora, she said she wanted a car. Well, what kind of car? Does it just need to have the bells and whistles? Does it need to be functional? Do you need to be able to start the car and go places? What exactly are you looking for? Because, the universe will send you a car. That's not a problem. It may not be a car that works. It might not even be a new car. You know what I mean? So it's about getting completely clear about what you want so you can expect the right things to show up in your life.
Yeah, I'm thinking about old stories or cartoons from when I was a kid about the genie in the lamp and people wishing for something and not getting what they want. I think there was even an insurance commercial about it or something. I don't know if a genie was involved, but someone saying, I wish I had $100. And they look out the window and there's 100 deer on their lawn.
Yeah. I think there was an insurance commercial here like recently within like the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good example of being clear and concise about what it is that you want. So Larry, can you share with us how you first got on this path to doing this work?
Yes. So for all your listeners listening, I'll just kind of take you way back. I just turned 36 here on February the 18th. But when I was about 14 years old, I had an experience that I kind of foresaw the death of my brother. And I saw it about a year before it happened. And so when everything came to pass, it completely shook my world upside down. At this time, I'm, 15 years old when he passed. And I'm this little closeted queer church-going boy. And that completely shook my world up when he passed. But the one thing that happened was he knew that he was going. It wasn't a situation where he was sick or anything. He just got involved with the wrong people. But he knew that he was going. So he actually left a letter. And in the letter, I am the youngest of 6 kids, but he left a little section for each of his siblings in the letter. And in that letter to me, he said, I'm expecting you to do great things. I'm expecting you to take over the world. You're smart, you're intelligent. I don't expect anything differently from you. And I was like, wow. Because he never really said that to me. I was really close with him, but we were kind of, the classic brothers, I'll come stay over all night of your house and, you'll pick on me, that kind of thing. But he never quite said that to me. So that really that was kind of the catalyst where I realized that, what? If he's expecting this from me, I've lived under the banner of others' expectations for years and, performing, the things of being who I am, who I was as an individual. And for him to say that, I really expect great things from you, I realized that letter was not only for me, that letter was for everybody. That message that he left was to be shared. And that started me on this path of wanting to share that message.
Mm-hmm. And so would you say that initial experience of foretelling his death was an opening to intuition or psychic ability, or what do you call it?
It was an opening to my definite psychic ability. Before, there was nothing. We have, psychic phenomena that runs in my family, but I had never experienced it up until that point. And from that point that I foresaw his death the year before it happened, it played out on what I call my big spiritual IMAX. I saw it like a movie. And then when it all came to pass, I saw the events unfold just like they did in the vision that I had the year prior. And so I began going to the library. At this point, the internet is still in its infancy, so there's not a lot of good information out there. So I just went to the library and I checked out book after book after book after book about anything supernatural, witchcraft, anything that you could think of to try to get an answer, because my uncle, who is a pastor in the church, didn't have answers for me. I was told I was dealing in familiar spirits, whatever that means. And I was like, okay, this is not the answer. So I began just reading and researching. And what I found was that I had a psychic vision. And I was like, well, if this is in me, then I want to be able to develop it. So I just began performing the exercises that you find in, those various books, the meditations and the, remote viewing and how to read tarot and all that stuff. And, I've been doing readings now for people since I was about 18 years old.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so do you fold that into the work that you're doing now too?
I absolutely do. While I don't do actual, readings unless they're requested from me, from individuals, I do rely heavily on the spiritual gift of clairvoyance and intuition when I'm coaching folks.
So getting back to your coaching with other people, I'm wondering how you help other people begin to identify their desires, because I imagine that desire is sort of the beginning of expectation. And I know in my work with people, sometimes they don't even know what it is that they want. They just know that they want something. Kind of like, I know that I'm hungry, but I don't even know that I want pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
First. So I'm wondering if there's a process that you walk people through to begin to clarify and identify that.
Yeah, one of the first things that I do when people say, well, I want something, but I don't even know what that is. Well, the first question I always throw back at you, I'm like, well, who are you? I really need you to get clear about who you are, because if you're not clear about who you are, then you won't know what it is that you actually want. And so when I throw that back on people, they're like, well, I've never thought about that. I'm like, well, let's start there first. Let's figure out who you are, because chances are that once we figure out who you are, what you want will bubble to the surface. And a lot of times people are scared to admit who they are because there's so much baggage that, all of us have back there. Even the most, amazing childhoods have tons of baggage back there. So that's the very first step that I take you through. Who are you? Once we figure out who you are, we can figure out what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really important, because when you figure out who you are, you figure out what it is that you like and what you don't like. And then you
absolutely
get more clear about what it is that you want and what you don't want.
Absolutely.
Right.
What you're willing to tolerate, what you're not willing to tolerate.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'll deal with pineapple on my pizza, but not anchovies.
Absolutely, yes. And just before our interview, it's so funny you say that. I just scarfed down 2 pieces of pizza with pepperoni and pineapple. So that's apropos right now, right?
I don't know why I'm just really loving this pizza metaphor. It makes it really easy to talk about all these things. So,
well, that was definitely the purpose. So I'm glad it's translating.
Yeah. I'm also curious if you see any common challenges or roadblocks with queer people in particular to clarifying their desires or intentions.
Yeah, well, before I transitioned into doing coaching, I was doing pretty much just exclusively readings. And the one thing, and it's still true even in coaching now, the one thing that keeps coming up over and over and over and over and over again is, queer people have a really tough time in love. Finding love, finding happiness, finding their, quote unquote other half. They have so many problems with that. And a lot of that is due to the fact, that a lot of queer people have trouble being vulnerable, because if you're vulnerable, especially as a queer person in, society today, that opens you up to a lot of possibilities for you to be taken advantage of, for you to be hurt. So we put up these protective walls, and we put them up so well that we don't even know how to surmount them ourselves. And so when I get that, I'm like, I have so many queer friends at this point that are just like, I want what you and your husband have. How do I get that? Like, how did you do that? And I'm like, I didn't do anything different. I said to the universe in the shower, I kid you not, I said, these are the things that I want. And I was being really facetious. I was really frustrated. I was being really facetious. I was like, good luck, universe. Good luck with that. And I kid you not, a couple days later, I got a message from him. And, I still had that email because we were using Plenty of Fish. And I was actually about to delete the app on my phone. Like, that was my plan after I got out of the shower. I was frustrated. I was going to delete it. And I got the email from him. And he come to find out now, we've been together for going on 7 years, that he never even sent that email. The system sent the email on his behalf. And, I was like, really? I was like, no, let me show you on my phone that you actually sent this. He was like, no, I never sent that to you. And it was just his username wants to meet you. And I was like, and he went against everything, that I had. He didn't have a picture up because of his line of work. So he couldn't have a picture up. But he wrote really well. And it was against everything within me to go to someone who didn't have a picture up. But I was like, oh, he writes really well. And then we just started talking, and the rest is history. So, kind of getting back to the question, love is that big thing that is the obstacle for us, because ultimately that's all we're all looking for. We all want love. We don't, even with, the family situations that, queer people experience, we're all looking for love and how to get there without getting ourselves hurt.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a lot of people coming to you for coaching around relationship or finding a relationship?
I have seriously considered rebranding myself and just call myself like the queer coach, because that's pretty much all that I get, which is completely fine, because our community, needs an advocate for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can also see, this idea of where's my pizza is like, where's my partner, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The person who's going to nourish me and comfort me and help me feel good.
Yeah, and a lot of things, I hear the most, where's my other half? Where's the person that's going to complete me? I'm like, well, you're already complete within yourself, so there is no other half. You're already completely whole within yourself. So we got to get that straightened out first. We got to get that pathology of, I need someone to complete me, or I need another half to make my whole. We got to get that completely done. Your pizza is already complete and whole once you get it. They're not sending you a slice or two, and you're not just a slice or two. You're already a complete pizza before you even go out and try to order another one for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Are there other issues besides relationship that are popular topics that people are coming to you for, or queer people in particular coming to you for?
Yeah, the other thing is, how do I just open up and allow myself to be? And that is a huge question. That's something that I'm even, kind of going through in my journaling and meditation experience right now. How do I just open up to just be? Queer people are telling me, that I don't want to be so closed off or so shut down anymore, but I just don't know what other way to be. I've been so buttoned up and so hidden and so forced to be a certain kind of way for so long that, going forward, I don't even know how to be authentic or real to people that I consider to be the closest people to me. And, it's unfortunate. I have a buddy just like that. He loved the guy to death, but anytime you get remotely serious about anything, he has to cut that tension by either changing the subject or saying something kind of shady or funny because it gets too real and he doesn't know how to process that emotion. And that's what I'm finding with a lot of people when they're coming to me saying, how do I just be? I just want to show up. I want to be the person that I am in my head or in the car, when it's just me with other people. And I don't know how to do that. So that's another big theme.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can see how bringing back the idea of expectation or anticipation, particularly in a way that is hindering the person, that especially queer people, we can oftentimes have an expectation or anticipation that being ourselves is not safe or dangerous, right? Or that we're not worthy of getting what it is that we want, right? Or that we're never going to find what we want because we don't deserve it, right? And so you can see how the work that you probably do is really valuable in helping people change their mindset around any of those limiting beliefs.
Absolutely. I mean, we're so many of us, I don't know what your experience is, Nick, but I was brought up in the Black Full Gospel Baptist Church. So, we're dancing, shouting, speaking in tongues, running around the church, doing all kinds of things. And, being gay, especially a Black gay male, in the church, that's just something that wasn't going to happen. I mean, to be honest, you couldn't hide my fabulosity if you wanted to, but I tried. You know what I mean? I really tried to not be that person. I knew that I was gay as young as like 5 years old. I didn't have words to express what that actually was. I just knew. I remember having a conversation with my mother in the backseat of the car regarding Old Maid. And I was like, Mom, in relationships, old people, how come in Old Maid you put two of the same card together, but in relationships you don't? And she said, don't say that. Don't say that. I didn't know what that meant, at 5 years old, but I just knew that what I was seeing my brothers and my sisters do, because I'm the youngest, I'm actually the baby, and there's 5 years between all of us. So looking at them doing what they were doing with, the opposite sex, it was just never that for me. I said, I'm never going to have that. And that was a realization I had at that, that young age. And, even going to the church where you're told, if you were brought up in the church, or even if you're not, that, God's not going to accept you. It's not right. Da, 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 da. And, it builds a complex around you. It really builds a complex.
So where do you see all of this going for you? You've got a book, you're coaching.
Yeah.
What's next for Larry?
What is next? I actually just got an invite to speak in Virginia Beach on June the 1st at a conference. So I'll be doing that. The plan is to set up some book tours, some speaking engagements. I have some courses that I'm working on. There's an awesome new course that I just came up with last night that I'm going to be putting out, but they're all going to be on-demand courses so people can kind of have me on the go. I just started on Instagram what we're calling the Pocket Coach. So every Monday I come up with a question that I propose to my followers, and then on Friday I give you the answer to that question. But in the meantime, we like to kind of discuss, possible solutions or possible outcomes to that question.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
How can people find you and find more about your work and what you're doing?
You can find me on my website. That's Larry-Armstead, ARMSTEAD.com. I'm on Instagram at officially_Larry. On Twitter at officially_LAR. And you can also find me on YouTube at officially Larry as well.
Great. Well, I will have those links on the show notes so people can also find them there easily. And in closing, can you share with us a person, practice, or experience that has supported your queer spirit to flourish?
Yes. My mother, my coming out experience with her, I didn't quite know how my mother was going to take things. I'm a typical mama's boy, so the night that I had gotten up the courage, okay, I'm going to come out to mom. I'm going to come out to mom. I drove around for every bit of 3 hours just around the city. And where I live, it's not a big city. But I drove around and I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop at the gas station and I'm going to just send her a text. The moment I hit send on the text, I can't take it back. It's there on her phone. So I sent her the text. And of course, my heart's racing. And I was at the gas station just up the street from our house. And I went to the house and I walked in the door kind of with my tail tucked between my legs because, again, I don't know how she's going to take this. And she sat on the couch, just got home from work. And she looks up at me and she was like, "Do you feel better now?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Honey, I've known that since you were like 3 years old." She's like, "I've just been waiting on you to tell me."
And how old were you?
I was like 21, 22.
Oh.
And yeah. And she was like, "I've been waiting on you to tell me now. Do you feel better?" I was like, "If you've known this long, you've let me steward." She was like, "It wasn't my story to tell." She's like, "Honey, I have known." She was like, "I just want you happy."
Uh-huh.
That's all. I don't care about anything else. I just want you happy. Are you happy? And I said, "I am absolutely thrilled." And then, in the same token, my dad, I told him, and he was like, "Okay, will you move? You're blocking the game." And he was literally just with his remote, just, "Will you move? You're blocking the game." I'm like, okay. So those are the two people that have that they just caused me to be able to say, you know what? They love me. They accept me. Everybody else, if they don't, whatever.
Yeah, that's a sweet story.
Yeah.
Well, I really look forward to hearing more about you spreading the good news of Exp-anticipation in the world.
Thank you.
And supporting people. And thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Do you feel lost or stuck? Or are you alone on your healing journey? If you're seeking guidance or support, I'm here to help. I offer online coaching and counseling for queer spiritual folks from all over. Schedule your free consultation with me now by going to queerhealingjourneys.com. I look forward to supporting you on your path. To find the resources we discussed today, find the show notes at thequeerspirit.com. And if you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. This will help us reach and support more queer people all over. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.